It's been reported that during the pandemic, cases of domestic violence have increased around the world. The UN think it's been an increase of around 20%. And the Office of National Statistics stated that up to 1.6 million women and 400,000 men aged 16 to 59 experienced domestic abuse last year. They also stated that almost 1 in 3 women will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. I'm with Ross from Northwards' Neighbourhoods team today to talk about what support is out there for people locally and what people can do if this is something that's affecting them or affecting people they know. So, Ross, what do we know about domestic violence in North Manchester? How big an issue is it, and have COVID restrictions had an impact?
Yeah, well, as you said, statistics nationally and worldwide are obviously quite shocking in terms of domestic abuse and domestic violence. In the city of Manchester last year, there was over 8,000 cases reported to the police, and obviously many more through other agencies as well. North Manchester is another, it's a hotspot for domestic abuse, domestic violence. There's a lot of issues out there. That could constitute sexual violence, physical violence, patterns of behaviour whereby perpetrators are isolating the victims, intimidating them, degrading them. There's a whole host of domestic abuse issues that fall under that umbrella that don't always get seen as that. It's a massive issue. It's an issue that we come across on a weekly basis, at least, unfortunately.
Wow.
There is the issue obviously recently in terms of the lockdown, whereby the ripple effect. So, you've got unemployment, poverty, mental health on the increase, which in turn is affecting how people are behaving at home to the loved ones. It's a lot harder, obviously, at the moment, where people are under more pressure to stay within the home, which is often the place where this abuse is taking place. It could happen to anyone, any sex, race, religion, gender identity, or age. And it obviously has a devastating effect on both that person and the families. And it's also important to note that historically it's thought that domestic abuse perpetrators are always either partners or ex-partners, but it's important to note that it could also be family members or carers who could be perpetrating that abuse as well.
What are the signs for people to look out for if they think a friend or a family member may be going through this?
Well, I guess there's a lot of signs that you can look out for that may strike you as more obvious in terms of physical abuse. Excess bruising. Maybe the friend or family member is saying that they've walked into a door or they've accidentally injured themselves. Something that just seems a little bit out of character. But there's a lot of other issues that you can look out for as well, and other signs. Someone might constantly have no money when you're aware that they work. There could be some financial control going on there. Equally, they may not be as social as they used to be. Your friend, family member might not be coming out. They might get quite upset or agitated if you say that you're going to visit them at home, something like that. Another telltale sign, which is really one to look out for, is feelings of guilt or feelings of not feeling attractive, not feeling good enough. It's all classic signs where the abuser is making the victim feel that way. And really having a hold on how they perceive others, themselves, and the community as a general, really.
How's it best for people to report this safely in terms of whether they're a victim themselves or whether they're concerned about someone they know?
That's a really important point, actually, is the reporting it safely part. Some people are in a position where they may be able to report it to an employer or their GP or a support worker. Other people may not be. So, with the police in general, they have an online live chat facility, which is really, really useful for victims who find themselves isolated at home, whereby the perpetrator may be there all the time.
Is that the GMP website?
Yeah. But every professional out there is effectively an operational support officer who has processes to support victims who are reporting these issues. So you know, if a victim's going to the GP or to a healthcare professional for a checkup, you know, they have processes whereby they refer it through to what's called MARAC, which is Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference, where the most serious domestic abuse cases are heard. And from that will arise actions. So, you know, they'd look at rehousing, they'd look at whether there's any further support from social services or IDVA or Women's Aid that's necessary. But the main thing is obviously reporting it in a way that suits that person at the time. So, you know, if they are going out to work and they can report it to their employer, then that's great. You know, they'll be supported of that process. But other people may not be. So whether they could speak to a family member, a neighbour, a friend, even if that's just a text message. There's been a lot of sort of initiatives locally and nationally in terms of code words and safe words. So if someone finds themselves in that situation and they have got a support network, to come up with a code word or a safe word for the family or friend, which, you know, may mean contact the police, that they can just send a text. So a lot of the time, you know, the perpetrators are very controlling, so they may have access to phone. You know, they might always be in the room. They might go through emails, text messages. So it's just about the victim making sure that they can report it in a way whereby it's safe for them to do so, and there's not going to be any immediate sort of consequences from that, from the abuser.
If they're a Northwoods tenant, can they contact Northwoods directly as well?
Yeah, so in terms of Northwoods Housing, they can contact the housing officer, they can contact the customer service centre, and you know, we have quite a stringent policy in place in terms of support that we can offer, whether that may be rehousing, target hardening, provide you with extra security measures on your home just to make you feel a little bit better, referring to other agencies, signposting to, you know, in the most serious of cases, some people need to leave that home there and then. So, you know, we do have a process for that in terms of contacting Housing Solutions and presenting as homeless for temporary accommodation, whereby they'll be supported into permanent accommodation following that. And most other sort of large and well-structured housing organisations and associations should have them processes too.